Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Spin It Reviews, and today I'm going to be counting down in my third list 2015, my top 10 hit songs of this year. Now, I'm not quite sure what I think about pop music on the charts this year. It was definitely easier for me to narrow down a top 10 this year compared to 2013 and 2014. I'm not sure what that says about me as a music listener or the overwhelmingly increasing Vine songs that actually become mainstream hits for some reason. Seriously, who's buying these on iTunes? Today, I'm going to be talking about my favorites of this year. That being, of course, my 10 favorite songs from the Billboard year-end Hot 100. So let's get this thing started with number 10, and I can't believe I'm saying this, Blank Space by Taylor Swift. If you told me a year or two ago that I would have a Taylor Swift song as one of my favorite hit songs of any year, I'm not sure if I'd say you were crazy, but I'd definitely give you one of these looks, you know? I guess like 80% of the song's appeal to me is in the really sharply written lyrics that really give me a lot more respect for her. I love this idea of taking the caricature that you kind of portray yourself as in the lyrics you wrote before and making this over-the-top, again, character out of it. Love that idea, and she conveys it really well here with some really well-executed lines. And it says a lot this is one of only a few songs that Ryan Adams couldn't improve on his version of it. Number 9's a little easier to see. It's Take Me to Church by Hozier. This is really here mostly out of obligation, even though I do really like this song. Even though I don't agree with everything he's saying in the lyrics and concept, the very fact that this kind of dark, organic, like indie blues soul kind of thing could break into the top 10, let alone hit number 2 on the Hot 100, really says a lot about the last few years being a massive improvement for the charts. The fact that someone can get a huge hit like this on nothing but just pure talent and without any kind of gimmicks and just having a real, like, sincere message to put. Now I kind of regret not listening to Hozier's album from last year since I heard so much good stuff about it. But yeah, this is a really refreshing song to see on the charts, and let's just pray it starts a trend. Number 8 is Love Me Harder from Ariana Grande and The Weeknd. This I don't really have too much to say about. I don't really consider it as exciting as Problem, which I put on my list last year, but I really like the low bubbling groove that goes throughout this song, and The Weeknd has a pretty good verse in what was his first real exposure to the mainstream. Remember when we thought that would be a fluke for him and he'd just stay this indie darling? Good times. We'll get to that later in the list. I really think this is a good balance for Ariana Grande to have just the right amount of electronics and synths, but not to the point where it gets super overblown and pandery to trends like Break Free or something like that. Let's hope the rest of her next album is better than Focus. In a word, it is timeless, familiar, but all meant in a good way, like it had been written for years. Ooh, years, ooh, some classic folk. Tell me why it took 18 months for it to break through here. Had it stuck in my head all my crappy summer career. Thank you. Sorry about that. Anyway, number 6 we have here by Alessia, Cara, just scraping the bottom of the year-end chart at the end of the year. This song is just so relatable, and I know that's kind of the main praise people are going to be giving it, and it really depends on what kind of person you are at a party. Personally, I am that kind that just kind of can't go along with the typical, like, social stuff. I'm a little bit more introverted, which is kind of the internet generation thing. That's a whole other conversation. But I really think she conveys that feeling well here without coming off as super judgmental. To me, the perspective on the song is like equal parts Lorde and like early Arctic Monkeys, like a lot of the stuff on their first album, at least from a lyrical perspective, obviously, with a slight R&B twist to get a kind of a unique flavor. I really dug this, and I kind of hope to see more from her on the charts if this is a good representation. And at number 5, we have Uma Thurman by Fall Out Boy. In retrospect, I kind of regret not reviewing American Beauty Beauty, American Psycho when that came out, since I do have some kind of strong feelings about it. You guys know I've made it an honorable mention in my most disappointing albums 2015 video, and this is not an example of that. If Fall Out Boy wants to go in a more poppy, more electronic-based direction, this is a great example of what to do with it. Songs like this and the title track for American Beauty, American Psycho, The Phoenix, just when they go super over the top and bombastic, as opposed to like these middle-of-the-road pop songs like they've done on like Alone Together or Centuries, which I'm not putting on this list, or Immortals or something like that. Just the right amount of what the freaking heck. From the Munsters theme sample to like a Pulp Fiction reference for the chorus, at least that's what I've heard about it. As you saw in my last list, I'm not exactly a film buff. This song is weird, but I find myself weirdly drawn to it. And I love this song was a hit because aside from having a really catchy chorus, it is not a conventional pop song in the slightest. So yeah, if you're gonna listen to new Fall Out Boy, this is a song to go to. Coming in at number 4 is Can't Feel My Face by The Weeknd. The Weeknd's a guy I have some really mixed feelings on because I thought he was pretty cool when I heard one of his mixtapes from 2011, back when he was more of an indie darling. Then he came through with this song, and I absolutely loved it. Of course, people compare it to Michael Jackson, which is pretty apt, even if it's kind of an obvious comparison. And his song, In the Night, that's kind of going up the charts now. I really hope that's a huge hit because I might like that song even more than Can't Feel My Face, even though it's pretty hard to beat. But yeah, even though I'm not the biggest fan of, Earned It and The Hills and all that, songs like this are gonna keep me really interested in what he does next, even if I missed the album put out this year. Whoops. And speaking of throwbacks, at number 3, we have Downtown by Macklemore and Ryan Lewis featuring Eric and Nally, Melle, Kool, Mo D, and Grandmaster Kaz. I'll freely admit, I did not like this song at first. It took a while to grow on me, but man, when it did, I guess the two things that kind of put me off of it were, first off, the lyrics, which is probably still the weakest thing about this, just kind of talking about getting a moped. And the other thing was that it's very unfocused musically, and I've learned to embrace that. It is so over the top. It is so cheesy, and with like the guy from Foxy Shazam just giving these insanely over-the-top high, downtown, stuff like that. Who would have expected that out of the lead single from the next Macklemore album? Ryan Lewis nailed it on the production on this thing, and I just cannot wait for the follow-up for The Heist to come out. And seriously, that is taking way too long. Let's just get the obvious out of the way. At number 2, it's Uptown Funk by Mark Ronson and Bruno Mars. You guys saw my review of Uptown Special, Mark Ronson's album, most likely. I'll link in the description if you haven't seen it. But yeah, I just think this is a perfect pop song, and sure, it is very overplayed. It's the number 1 song on the year-end Hot 100, so naturally, I don't blame you if you're a little sick of it. But man, unlike Happy from last year, which totally got disqualified from the list just because I was so annoyed with its overplaying, I'm still completely on board with it. I think this is a fantastic pop song, Bruno Mars. He still does a great job on this, and I don't know, I think this is just like the right amount of throwback in a really light, fun way. There's not really much else I can say. It's just a great pop song. Go listen to it. Let's hope he has a second hit, because I do not want him to be considered a one-hit wonder for all of the great production he's done over the years. Moving on. And finally, my favorite hit song of 2015, Shut Up and Dance by Walk the Moon. Now, I didn't get around to their album Talking Is Hard that came out late last year, but that was a really enjoyable, fun 80s pop album. I was into them since their first album in 2012, and just begging for a song like Anna Sun or Tightrope to be this big crossover hit. And when Shut Up and Dance came out, and it started doing kind of well, I just kind of accepted that, okay, they were just one of those bands that didn't catch on for some reason. But then, as 2015 went along, it got on the Hot 100 and just started going further and further up the charts until it became this massive top 5 smash hit. And I just can't help but be really proud of these guys. Again, not going for the cred thing or anything, but it says a lot about the song's quality that I listened to it for the first time when they played it live at a festival back in, I believe, September or August of 2014. And even though it hadn't been officially released yet, it was still stuck in my head on the way home. I think that says a lot about just what a potent, infectious at every second pop song this is. It's just like a perfectly constructed 80s throwback song that has like everything great about this kind of 80s pop rock and like mid-2000s killersy dance rock just mashed together into one to make just a killer song that I'm so glad crossed over. It's got this message to people like me who just get way too in their own heads, and I just really appreciate that spin it had on the kind of typical. So yeah, those are my top 10 hit songs 2015. What are yours? Let me know in the comments down below. My last list, that being of course my favorite albums of 2015, which is going to be coming out hopefully before the new year. I'll have all the songs and stuff linked in the description if you haven't heard them yet somehow. And hopefully I'll see you in the next episode of Spin Reviews. Bye. Oh, by the way, fun fact, this video almost didn't happen because it was supposed to be a medley of parodies of the choruses of these songs, and then I realized, wait a minute, I can't sing, and it would just look really bad like the other review / parody things I've done, so I just kind of didn't. But, you know, just made these script notes. Okay, pointless director commentary.